Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to contain my overview of this month in Dragalia Lost for the month of October 2021. In case you're not aware, this is where the game's director, Okada, talks to us about what's to come for the month ahead and often teases things about the game's future as a whole. In this video, I'm going to read through that news post and I'll provide my reactions, thoughts, and impressions on everything, and it comes at a time that is particularly relevant when it comes to thinking about the game's future since this is the 3rd anniversary period. We have lots of events happening, Faith Forsaken, a new story featuring a playable 5-star Harl that's free. It's a character lots of players have wanted to have access to since the game first released. We also have double and triple drops, a summon showcase with Zethia and Bahamut, and still a month of free daily 10-fold summons left. So it's a great time to be playing Dragalia Lost whether you're a longtime player or new to the game, and hopefully this news post about this month in Dragalia Lost has a lot of juicy details about what's coming in October as well as for the future. I'm really looking forward to reading it. Of course, with it being October, we also have our shops reset, so just a quick reminder here to go into your Void Battle Treasure Trade, your Astral Raids Treasure Trade. There's freebies that you get every month at the start of the month, and you can now redeem those. You can also make additional purchases from the shop with monthly packs that are limited to a certain amount of purchases per month, if that's something that you want to do. So just a reminder on that. We also got a post from Director Okada specifically responding to player feedback, and there's some really good nuggets or morsels of information in there that actually relate to what's said in this month in Dragalia Lost, so we will flip back over to that as we get closer to some of those details. So let's go ahead and get started here. Of course, as always, Director Okada thanks us for playing Dragalia Lost, and in particular, he thanks us doubly so this time, or perhaps triply so, because it's the 3rd anniversary. So he says here, Dragalia Lost reached another momentous milestone on September 27th, 3 whole years since the release of the game. On behalf of the entire team, let me express my heartfelt gratitude for the passion and support that you've shown us these past 3 years. Just like last year and the year before that, we've prepared a whole host of events to celebrate, and we can't wait for you to dive in and enjoy the festivities. I certainly have been enjoying the festivities, and I think the thing that had the biggest impact on me is just the generosity. The generous impact of the dev team in this anniversary has been fantastic. The amount of free summons, 500 plus free summons, it's just unheard of in a gacha game. So I have been loving that. I would say that's certainly the thing that's had the biggest impact on me. Playing Dragalia Lost since the beginning is how responsive the dev team has been, and it's one of the reasons why I've stuck with it all this time. Even starting off as a free-to-play player, eventually wading into more whale territory, of course, but yeah, it's been a blast. I can't believe it's been 3 years. Thanks for y'all who have been supporting the channel all that time, and if you're new, hopefully you're having a good time playing Dragalia Lost and getting some awesome pulls off those free summons. So let's keep reading here. Zethia forged a pact with Bahamut, a powerful figure who plays a major role in the events of Chapter 21 of the main campaign. Now their Gala Dragon versions are ready, or Gala Dragalia versions are ready rather, raring to join the fight. Gala Zethia and Gala Bahamut each have some unique mechanics, so be sure to check them out. Compared to my review video that I posted, I think the thing that has stuck with me the most, or stood out to me the most, now that these characters, or this character and dragon, have released, is Zethia has a really high hit count with her standard attacks, and that mechanically could actually be really relevant in Surtr, our upcoming Sinister Dominion, part 2 of that fight. We have seen hit count centered mechanics on the rise in Trials of the Mighty, in Sinister Dominion, so I actually think that that might be sort of relevant. We do have another character in the Shadow element who can do the hit count thing pretty well in the form of Gala Chell, but this might be yet another option, so that did stand out to me. And besides that, of course, just the power level, off the charts for both this dragon and this adventure. I do think they're very, very good. Okay, so moving on. As part of the 3rd anniversary celebration, we're holding a daily free 10-fold summon, which allows you to perform a 10-fold summon on the applicable summon showcase for free once per day. This will be followed by a free 100-fold summon, during which you can perform 100 summons on the applicable summon showcase for free, but only for a single calendar day. So last time that happened, it was past seasonal adventures included in that, and I actually got super lucky and I picked up the one seasonal adventure that I was missing, Valentine's Chelsea. So I'm no doubt very excited about the free 100-fold and just the free daily 10-folds. It gives you something to look forward to when you're logging in every day, even if you have a pretty sizable collection. I got super lucky on day 2 of the free daily 10-folds, and I randomly got 2 Gala Reborn Nidhogg's. Have not got any other 5-stars so far, but that's a really good dragon. Even though I don't have Sunlight Stones to necessarily unbind it and build it out, like, that's still a really excellent free pull. And considering I have a shot at something of high value every day with free daily 10-folds, always love to see it. So, as I said earlier, it's super generous and I'm here for it. Okay, so continuing on, Angels and Apostles assemble in the Faith Forsaken raid event. The Faith Forsaken raid event is a 2-part spectacular that brings together the Angels and Apostles who you've met over the course of previous events. The story is split into 2 halves, each with its own series of twists and turns. Those familiar with the plot of the main campaign will be excited to see the mysteries of Northern Ilian Church resolved and learn even more about the characters who we've come to know and love. The event is tied to the main campaign in more ways than one. You'll be able to recruit the ever-elusive Harl into your roster by reading far enough through the event's story. Note that Harl's convictions will only be obtainable during the first half of the event, so don't miss out on them if you're thinking about upgrading him. He has some secrets of his own just waiting to be revealed. If you think you know Harl, think again. Alright, so I am very curious, for those of you who are newer to the game, what you think about this event, especially as jumping on point if you've played through the story so far. I'm not going to get into the story content of this event in this video. I will probably post a dedicated video just talking about Faith Forsaken and Harl, but it's a really interesting one as a longtime player. These are plot threads that I've been curious about and wanted to see fleshed out more, and I think that this event has fulfilled that for me. I am curious though as well of just like how that sits for a newer player to the game, because it's a lot of characters in here. I could see it being sort of overwhelming. Of course, you don't really need to know all the details to enjoy the raid battle and enjoy your free character. When it comes to the conviction items, the one thing I just want to say is make sure you're collecting those, because they're a way of maxing out your free Harl totally for free, with no cost, like no resource cost, I should say. It's always basically free. If you want to play free to play, you can get all the materials you would need otherwise. But these convictions, during an event where you get a free character, by collecting all of those, you can completely max out that character. And if you wait until the event's over, then it's going to cost you some more resources to do that. So look for those. They're little orbs with Harl's face on them. If you get them all, you can get Harl up to 50 mana nodes. And he is a blade adventure, so a very solid free adventure to have, even just as far as the co-ability goes, with the strength co-ability. Pretty interesting adventure, and love the portrait on Harl. Okay, so let's move on. This event takes place after Chapter 22 of the main campaign, so we're jumping up a bit ahead in the timeline here. The Prince and Friends will make an appearance in the second half, but to find out what happened to them before that, be sure to play through Chapter 22 when it's released later this year. Interesting, I don't think we've ever had this type of situation before, where we've had an event happen after the main campaign timeline. We've obviously had some happen before, but I can't think of one where it's like slightly after the events of the main campaign, so that's kind of neat. Plans for this month. The adventure of Regina will be featured in a prize showcase starting on 10/5 at 1 a.m. for me. Oh, and we got a crash, y'all. Okay, we're going back in. So Regina's coming, she's summonable, she's featured in the event. She is the leader of the Apostles, and as far as her design, I really like it. I definitely get some Ilya vibes from her as we work our way back in the game here. And part of that is her use of future technology. The other thing that stood out to me about her design is, and this I feel like sort of ages me, but it feels like a Soul Society character to me, right? Like a Kubo number Bleach. Yeah, so that is the vibe I get just aesthetically when I look at her. But anyway, it says that she made her debut as the leader of the Apostles in the event and is partnered with the angel Sandalphon. So it looks like this Sandalphon here is just part of her adventure portrait. She does appear to be a blade adventure, but maybe Sandalphon will also be summonable as a dragon as well. I would hope that's the case. Okay, so then the second half of Faith Forsaken begins in mid-October. You'll go toe-to-toe with a formidable foe that appears in the conclusion of the first half, so I think we know who that is. You'll fight through your share of familiar quests, but are you ready for a co-op battle in which up to 15 of your fellow players each control a single adventurer. Prepare to have your teamwork tested. One thing I'm curious about with this is we've gotten all these worm prints on the anniversary, including this one, that say United in them, and those types of abilities are supposed to scale based on the number of players that you're playing with. Maybe those will actually be super good in this with 15 other players, and the fact that we've had Battle Royale, for a year now, and it's sort of not a loved mode, like, let's be real, a lot of players don't like it or are actively against it, even though I think it's kind of a fine mode, like, it just hasn't really gone anywhere. But maybe it was sort of testing the waters as well, because it has to connect 16 people together for a play session, and so this might have weirdly been a byproduct of testing that out and seeing the fact that, yes, we can do that, but let's now implement that in more of a co-op fashion. I could see this being complete chaos and really fun in a way, so I'm looking forward to this. I wonder, can you just imagine 15 of the same adventure? Wouldn't that just be hilarious to see 15 of one adventure, just 15 Lowens battling against you-know-who here? So, yeah, that one's, I think, going to be kind of neat. Okay, so Wind Legion's Trial will be added to Trials of the Mighty in mid-October. Totally fine, nothing really to say. I do love Wedding Aoi, so her getting a mana spiral, I'm excited for, and as part of our login bonus for the anniversary, we did get an Omniscience, which can be used to completely unlock the mana nodes and mana spiral of a character, so I'm hanging on to that for now. I really don't know when to use that, because in this case, we have a week where we're going to have Wind Legion's Trial, and basically, you're getting materials for free every day that can go toward Aoi, so why would I use the Omnicide on her, except to just expedite the process, so that I don't have to wait for another round of the Sinister Dominion, or Trials of Mighty rather, to come around. I'm just not sure how to use that yet. I kind of might end up just holding on to it, to be honest, so anyway, we continue reading. A Time Attack Challenges event pitting you against water-attuned enemies will be held in late October. Love the content release as far as bosses and time attack. I just think that they've found a really good schedule where we were getting the Legend Agito interspersed with the time attack, interspersed with new Sinister Dominion. So at least once a month there was some hard content. But for time attack itself, I have kind of just completely moved on past it. I know there are some people who still like it and enjoy it. I just don't have the time, ironically, even though it's super fast if you're doing it well. But I don't have the time to put in the research and the trials needed to excel at this mode. And even if I did, that's not an excuse. I think even if I did, I wouldn't be particularly good at it, I'm just not a pro gamer in that way. But kudos to those out there who are doing awesome at this. It's a cool challenge for that subculture of Dragalia fans. Okay, so with the addition of Surtr to the Rise of the Sinister Dominion in late October, this series of quests will now feature a boss from each of the 5 elements. Once all 5 bosses are available, clear each of their battles on expert difficulty to unlock an epilogue. Love how we're getting a detailed shot of Surtr here. We got a sneak peek with one of the teaser images for the 3rd anniversary where it showed all the Sinister Dominion bosses together, and Surtr was kind of in the background. But this is a design I really like. The flaming head, the armored body here. I just think it's a cool design. I think Iblis, just as humanoid as he is, might still be my favorite of the Sinister Dominion bosses. But Surtr here might be my second favorite. Yeah, I think that's probably the case. Asura and Yaldabaoth for me are just, they're a little bit too weird in their design, for lack of a better word. Too abstract for me to latch on to. There's something very tangible about the Agito bosses, with them being as humanoid as they are, and even the Greatwyrms just being straight up dragons. I think the demon designs are a lot more, they're a lot more varied. I guess the variance is higher. You have Iblis, who basically looks like a human, and then you have Asura that kind of looks like a robot almost. So for some, that's a good thing, because it means that they can latch on to one of their favorite designs, and I think that's kind of how it's panned out for me, with me liking a couple of the designs a lot. But as far as Surtr goes, in terms of a boss fight, love to see it coming out in late October, and also This is going to round out the Sinister Dominion so that this should start as a flame boss and in master difficulty switch over to being a light boss, meaning we're going to use a water team for the most part, and in the second half of master we're also going to use a shadow team. It's just cool to see this come to completion, get extra wormprint slots on our water element Agito weapons. I'm glad that we've gotten these like at a regular cadence without delays. Like, I think that's kind of remarkable in and of itself. Anyway, as we read along here, part 1 of chapter 22 of the main campaign will be added on October 31st. It's a little later than the month than usual for story chapter releases, but I think it's worth the wait. You'll get to battle a certain powerful dragon. Okay, we all know it's got to be Bahamut. At least I would think so. Maybe it won't be, but that's my prediction. And October 31st is totally fine by me. We have these 2 major events happening throughout this month that are story pertinent, so I'm kind of surprised that this is even releasing this month. It wouldn't have bothered me if this was in November, honestly, but we are getting that at the end of October. Okay, so future updates. Legend difficulty will be added to the Rise of the Sinister Dominion. We also plan to update the treasure trade lineup and add epithets accordingly. Sweet. So, as I mentioned, with the release calendar this past year being pretty nice as far as I was concerned with endgame content, I think this is another great way to keep the content flowing. So we can have every other month either a Primordial Greatwyrm, which is our next set of endgame bosses, or on the off months, we'll get a legend difficulty for the Sinister Dominion. I think that that's going to provide a very steady stream of content. That's 10 months worth of content with all 5 of those Greatwyrms and all 5 of the Sinister Dominion, doing one every month. That's going to take us pretty much to the next anniversary. So I think that this is a really... Legend I've been very satisfied with it, honestly. Like, it is difficult and can feel frustratingly difficult at times when you get toward the end and you just lose. Like, it's kind of punishing in the Berserk phase. There are some cons to it, but the fact you only have to do 1 clear a week, and it gives something to sink your teeth into if you are a player that prefers harder content. And I just think it's like kind of epic how some of the bosses are designed with the Berserk phase. I don't know. I've had a pretty good experience with it, not ever feeling like super frustrated. The fact that it's used to unlock minor upgrades and cosmetics on your weapon skins, I'm cool with Legend. I do like me some Legend, so... Okay, we'll keep reading. As announced in the most recent update, or episode rather, of Dragalia Digest, we're hard at work putting the finishing touches on the Enter the Kaleidoscape event set to release by the year's end. For those who may have missed a preview, you start off with a single adventure at level 1 and attempt to delve as deep into the labyrinth as you can without being defeated. The weapons, wormprints, and skills you collect from fallen foes will help you survive, but you'll need your wits most of all. Stay on your toes in this ever-changing adventure, for you never know what dangers are lurking around the corner. Further details will be provided closer to the event's release. We'll come back to this. And then here we get, in conclusion, thank you for reading this month's update. Once again, allow me to express my heartfelt gratitude for your support these past 3 years. I hope that all of the anniversary events and the 2-part raid event in particular make this special celebration fun and memorable for you. And we get 100 million rupees and 1 sunlight stone. Really good this month reward this time. Just as a quick rupee check-in here. This is the rupee situation for me. I guess I'm a billionaire now, so I didn't realize, I totally forgot they expanded the rupee cap. But at some point, once you're done with the numerous weapon bonuses and weapon unbinds and so on, eventually you do get to kind of a post-rupee situation. How long that will last, I cannot say, because I'm sure they're going to put in some more rupee sinks in the future. But what I also wanted to share with y'all, because I'm really excited about Kaleidoscape as well as the Primordial Greatwyrms. In this other post where Director Okada responds to player feedback, some of this feedback is, it's not as interesting to me, so I'm going to skim through here. But here it is. Dragalia Digest. We would like to ask a few questions. To start off, could you elaborate on the upcoming Enter the Kaleidoscape event? It appears to be a dungeon crawler, but the mechanics are a little overwhelming at first glance, so we're worried that newer players may struggle to complete it. So here we get, look, a lot of paragraphs of information. Excellent. Okay, so Okada says, in this event, you begin your exploration of the Kaleidoscape with a single adventurer who starts off at level 1. The goal is to reach the bottom of the labyrinth, or at least as far down as you can without being defeated. As you proceed further and further down, your adventurer will level up and find all sorts of weapons, wormprints, skills, and dragons to help them survive along the way. You will have a new experience each time you play, and you'll have to remain flexible and base your minute-to-minute strategy on what lies in your way at any given moment. So, I love what I'm hearing. This wasn't always the case for me. My gaming tastes have definitely changed a lot over the years, but in the past 2 or 3 years, I don't know if it's maybe just age or time and not having as much time to sink my teeth into like longer titles, but I have really come around to liking a lot of different roguelikes and roguelites. So games like Hades, for example, that was probably my favorite game last year. And I'm not even that good at like action-oriented games that Hades kind of is. I like Dead Cells before that as another example. But the games that really appeal to me in this genre are more tactical ones or slower ones. So I'm a big fan of Slay the Spire, Monster Train, Into the Breach. So I really like games in that genre. And it just like kind of crept up on me. Like the one more run thing feels very real. I don't know if it's maybe because I played trading cards before and I used to love like Limited and drafting and just making selections on the fly. It's something I loved in Breath of the Wild with Eventide Island. But this genre of game where you're going on runs and every run feels different, I've always felt like it would be such a good mashup with Dragalia. And I think I've heard comparisons to like Diablo, maybe other titles that I'm not as familiar with. But essentially, going through story maps, I'm guessing it's going to be story maps based on the trailer. It kind of looks like they're a little bit more varied. They're kind of path-like, similar to a story map as opposed to just an arena map where we usually battle our bosses. I'm very excited about this. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe it won't feel as great to play with Dragalia's combat style. Maybe it could be frustrating because you have to get very good at dodging, and some of the basic enemies, they feel kind of unfair sometimes where they'll just have super high hit priority. I remember back in the day, right, when we were fighting High Mercury and the rats just punch you out of the water bubbles. So it could be like that. It could actually be kind of hard and maybe frustrating depending on the enemies you're dealing with, but actually rewarding skill in this type of environment where you have to dodge appropriately. You have to conserve your heals, your heal skill tablets for the right time. You might have to make a choice. Do I want to take another attacking skill or do I want to take an HP up buff? There are a lot of ways that I think this could be made into a really cool mode. So it's one that we've been clamoring about from the beginning of the game because Kaleidoscape was part of a data mine around the game's release. And so for this to come out 3 years later, it's incredible. So anyway, reading on. While you can't bring the weapons, wormprints, skills, or dragons that you find strewn about the labyrinth back home with you, you can exchange the points you earn for various items or even spin them to give you added advantages during your subsequent runs. So love to see it. So the added advantages thing is what can really hook me into games in this genre. So Hades, for example, has that, right, where every run you're earning some amount of currency you can spend in your mirror or otherwise. You're building your bonds and relationships. So if they have some kind of point system, super cool. I'm totally fine with that. It doesn't have to be the super hard run every time. I don't mind it getting easier. And then if you manage to complete the journey, you will earn a wormprint that features a portrait of the adventurer you used. Each and every adventurer has their own unique wormprint, and each wormprint differs slightly in abilities, but they can be equipped by any adventurer. You will still earn one of these wormprints if you quit partway through, but reaching the end will reward you with one which has a wider variety of abilities. Fascinating. So maybe the further you get, the stronger you power up that particular character's wormprint. That's a lot of wormprint. So from an art budget standpoint, I would guess that it's just going to be the character portrait slapped onto a wormprint, maybe with some background art behind it. I don't think it's going to be a beautiful illustration of every single adventure because we saw with the Sinister Dominion, they started using the same artwork and different affinities for worm prints. Like, you have multiple worm prints with the exact same artwork. And I don't love that because that's kind of confusing. And if they didn't have the budget to do 2 separate artworks for that, like, I don't know. That's what I have to assume is the case, unless they did that intentionally. But yeah, I think it's not going to be like an elaborate thing, but just as a cool collectible, like, this will give some replayability for sure. Okay, so then it may all sound overwhelming, but everyone starts off on the same page, so newer players will not have to worry about preparing anything in advance, though I will say that a veteran player's knowledge may certainly come in handy. With that said, my humble advice is to simply dive in headfirst and enjoy the experience. I am looking forward to doing that. And then, will players be able to take their time with the event, or will it only be available for a limited time? If it's permanent, will there be occasional updates? Once released, it will be available to play anytime. We do plan to update the event with more content sometime in the future, but since there is merit to completing it with each and every one of your adventures, we think that players will have fun exploring the ever-shifting labyrinth for quite a while. Love it. Permanent content, just something to do every day. Go in, go on your runs. I hope it's fun. I really hope it's fun because I think there's so much potential. And then we also get something here unrelated to Kaleidoscape, but I think worth talking about too. Can you share anything more about the upcoming series of high difficulty quests? Will they be on the same level as what we have now, or even more difficult? Also, will they have restrictions on the elemental attunements and the weapons that can be used? For those who have yet to watch the latest Dragalia Digest, these quests will have you face off against the 5 Greatwyrms in their primordial forms. Exactly why you're going up against these particular foes will be revealed in future story development, but for now I can say that we plan to offer a variety of difficulties, with the most difficult naturally being extremely challenging. At the moment, we do not plan to impose any restrictions on the types of teams that players can put together. This is just going to be really fun too, in my opinion. Primordial dragons, getting back to more of the roots of the game, with emphasis on dragons. I have high expectations for these boss fights. There may be some mechanics like Curse of Nihility that are controversial. You know, at one time, rolling to dodge was controversial, so I think that we'll come around to it probably if you are a longtime player of the game. And the designs of the Primordial Greatwyrms are pretty sweet. Like, you may get them as a summonable dragon from the future. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but like on Twitter, there seems to be a lot of retweets about, or tweets rather, reposts of Dragalia minis about humanoid Jupiter. So like, I think he's happening sometime soon, in the future at the very least. But for these primordial forms, like, I would imagine they'll be gacha style, like Midgardsormr or Zero. So I don't think we're necessarily going to get dragons by playing this mode, but maybe we'll get materials used for 5th unbinds on those dragons. Maybe we'll get some new type of facilities or even weapons, like our next level of weapons, because we got that with High Dragons, we got that with Agito, but Sinister Dominion just went with Wormprint. But anyway, y'all, who knows what's in store for us, but regardless, I am very excited about the future of Dragalia Lost. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you're looking forward to the most in the comments below and how the anniversary has been going for you so far. But that is going to do it for today's video, everyone. So thank you as always for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.